Good morning, everyone. I'm Meredith with Madam Diesel. Today, we're going to talk about tools, but not the tools in my toolbox or the tools around the shop. I'm going to show you the tools that I carry every day when I work as a mobile mechanic.
Well, here she is, my tools that I carry every day. The stuff gets heavy, but it's been a reliable set of tools that I can bring with me every day and do probably 99% of the jobs. Of course, flashlights are probably one of the most important things I carry. My headlamp is my Old Faithful. This is a Coast rechargeable headlamp. It lasts all day. I have 2 or 3 of them, and they're rechargeable and super bright, so I wear them all the time. This is my pocket inspection light, also made by Coast and also rechargeable. Very, very bright. Most of my headlamps are LED. My pocket flashlights are LED. I really need bright light to see what I'm doing, and these are really reliable. They can take a beating. Along with bright lights, I really prefer rechargeable because I hate dealing with batteries unless I have to. The headlamp on one charge will last me a couple days sometimes. This is my Streamlight pocket inspection light. Very, very bright LED. I don't use it as much anymore, but it's handy to have once in a while, and so usually it lives in the toolbox. And then this Pelican light is used in engine rooms where you need a non-conductive flashlight, so gotta carry that too. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is probably one of the most important things you can have on board your boat, and that's a complete socket set with deep and shallow sockets. This is a Matco Silver Eagle set. Very expensive, but I've had this set and the same older set for years. They don't rust as long as you take care of them. They're wonderful sockets. This is my Old Faithful Tough Box. A friend gave it to me years ago. Somehow this thing has not fallen apart, and I love it because it's plastic and it doesn't mar up, people's decks or, surfaces inside the boat. You can see this thing's taking a beating, held together with zip ties. I actually have another one as a backup just in case this one decides to die. I like it so much. And just inside is a top tray and then a deep storage area, and that's enough room to carry everything. In the top tray, I've got my most reached for stuff. That's my mini funnel for reverse gear oil changes, because you got to fill it via the dipstick hole. Next is Snap-on adjustable crescent wrench with wide mouth. My 3/8 stubby Snap-on angle head ratchet. I use that every day. Of course, you got to have markers, a couple Allen wrenches, a pair of pliers, my 1/4 inch extra long Snap-on ratchet, also angle head, very handy. More markers, of course. I use markers all the time. A couple dental picks from my favorite dentist. A pair of hemostats from one of my doctor buddies. My scraper, razor blade, that needs a new blade. Always carry a couple extra blades to replace any broken blades. Another permanent marker. I use those all the time for marking engines and electrical and things like that. Pocket screwdrivers. This is a Yanmar specialty tool for pulling impellers on the new 4JH raw water pumps. And there's enough new engines now that I've just started carrying this around with me to be able to change an impeller on the fly. In this section, I've got a variety of 3/8 and quarter drive extensions. Looks like I've got a couple specialty sizes of sockets, just common sizes that I use, along with the adapters to be able to use them with my 3/8 drive ratchets. These fit different things like injectors and crank bolts and stuff like that in different engines. I've got a bunch of miscellaneous crap that is gonna leave. I always end up with miscellaneous parts, and they don't need to go around in the box with me. And so while I'm cleaning this up, we're gonna get rid of any unnecessary stuff. This is a heel bar, little mini one, very handy. A couple extensions, paint pen, These are my Snap-on angle head wrenches, 45 and 90 degree angle for really tight spots, and they're very handy. This is a 3/8 stubby Cornwell ratchet, also very handy, and a backup to my Snap-on one. I have 2 sets of feeler gauges for adjusting valves and doing other stuff. This part of the tray houses my adapters. I've got a large 1/2-inch universal joint. I've got my little 3/8 universal joint that actually belongs in my socket set. So that's going to go back where it belongs. And then I have my 1/2-inch to 3/8 adapter impact and my 1/4-inch universal joint. This syringe is used for filling turbos with oil when they're brand new. Another adapter and a short extension, and then of course my thread pitch gauges, which are getting a little rusty. We'll have to clean those up, but a lot of times if I need new hardware, I can always check thread pitch and see what it is so I can go make sure I get the right stuff. And finally, my tiny little calipers that I made in college. I use these a lot for measuring sizes of hose and hose barb and things like that. We've got a nice clean tray. Now time to clean up at least the top tray of this stuff and get it ready for service. I really like using Brake Clean. Once or twice a year, I take everything out of this box and some of my other stuff and just go through it, oil anything that needs oiled, make sure all the tools are clean. I work in a particularly salty environment, so if you never maintained these tools, things like the ratchets and the wrenches would quickly become rusty. The higher end tools, not so much. I can really get away with just cleaning these about once, maybe twice a year and re-oiling them. And unless I spill like salt water or something on them, they really don't corrode badly. The cheap tools do, so if you're thinking of buying tools for the boat, you may have to service them and oil them more often than I do. Higher end tools are gonna, corrode less than, like Harbor Freight stuff. Now, some people give me a hard time about having, some brand name higher end tools. And when it's your livelihood, it's a whole different thing. Every mechanic is going to have their preferences on what wrenches and ratchets and sockets they like the best. I happen to like Snap-on hand tools, and I've been using Snap-on hand tools for over 20 years. And they really don't fail. I have yet to break one. I obviously don't abuse my tools, so I don't have much of a problem in the way of that, but they hold up very well in the marine environment. Now for the bottom of the box, this reminds me of, Mary Poppins' handbag. It's amazing how much stuff actually fits in this plastic tough box. It all kind of has to fit in a certain way. I've got my complete set of SAE wrenches in a really ancient wrench roll. This tan roll is my metric wrenches. I also have a complete set. You really don't want to skip sizes. A lot of these engines have kind of oddball sizes, so make sure you get a complete set if you want to get a set. And then this last wrench roll is my ratcheting wrenches. I have gear wrench. The longer wrenches are gear wrench, and the shorter wrenches are Cornwell, and they're stubby metric and long metric ratcheting wrenches. Very handy, but I don't use them nearly as often as my standard box end wrenches. My box end wrenches are a mix of Craftsman and Snap-on. I tend to leave my really, really good wrenches here at the shop in the toolbox. Next is these Knipex pliers, and I love these things. I use them every day for a whole variety of jobs. And I have 3 sizes that I carry with me day to day, and they have never failed. Of course, every mechanic is going to have a collection of hammers. This is my brass mallet and rubber mallet, both Snap-on. I was not a believer there was a difference until I bought these and experienced what, R&D Snap-on has done with their hammers. I've got another pipe wrench here that's probably not going to go back in this box. Don't need to carry more than one. These things are great. These are snap-on dikes, but they multiply your strength. This ratchet I use every day. It's really, really nice for leverage. That's why I like the longer stuff. Got another pair of pliers that's probably going to go back in the toolbox. I don't use those. My pry bar, always handy. Use that a lot for tensioning belts and doing other things. This is my main pipe wrench. Really good size for kind of everything. I just got off a large refit project, so I've got a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff in the box. This chisel is really handy for stabbing oil filters, and that's what it's used for almost exclusively. Next thing is my chain wrench, which is really handy for all kinds of filters, but also sometimes like turning over shafts by hand, that sort of thing. It's adjustable, of course, so I use that all the time. And of course, a hacksaw for cutting all the exhaust hose. Why I have 2 hacksaws in here, that's a good question. Normally I carry one big hacksaw, and then I have this little mini hacksaw for really tight spaces. These are my Cornwell extra long ratcheting angle head metric wrenches, and they are so handy, especially for tight bolts. And I use them quite a bit, though you really need the space to swing them. There's another angle head wrench that goes in my top tray. And then this guy is actually a tent like pole for like a rain fly, and I use it to run wire through like conduit. I just screw it together. It's flexible and comes apart in pieces, so it's really easy to use. Of course, I carry another impeller puller. This one's a generic Jabsco from West Marine. Another pair of flat nose pliers. More miscellaneous hose clamps. A file and an oil filter wrench. Those things are not going to go back in. They belong elsewhere. And that's what I got in the toolbox. As I go through and clean this stuff up, this is kind of my one chance a year to kind of adjust what tools I have in the box, kind of determine what I used a lot, what I didn't use a lot. Obviously some miscellaneous tools found their way into the box. I don't need to be carrying it around every day, and that box gets really heavy. So this is kind of why I go through things, trying to just bring the bare minimum of what I need, day to day, because when you carry this thing around every day, it gets really old if it's just full of junk. So I really assess what tools I use all the time and what tools that I could bring for certain projects and maybe not bring every day. I also bring this toolbox with me in my car if I'm traveling, on my boat if I'm traveling, just in case something goes wrong. They're fairly generic. You can use them for anything, really. Automotive, marine, it doesn't matter. And so that's why, I want kind of a good general set of tools that I can tear a lot of things apart with. So now that we've got our tools back in the box, I'm going to add a few more things that really belong in the box. My utility knife, it's a disposable. I've got a brass punch made out of an old water pump shaft that I machined, and I use that all the time. These are snap-on flush cutters, and I use them for cutting zip ties and wires and small things. Very, very handy, and I need those pretty much every day. A good inspection mirror for looking around corners that you can't get to. That's always a handy thing. Of course, a mini tape measure for measuring lengths of hose and wire and all kinds of stuff like that. And then an all-around screwdriver that can handle pretty much any screw you're going to come across on the boat. This Milwaukee one I got at Home Depot, and I love it. That's everything in the gray toolbox. I carry that every day no matter what. The next thing is the electrical bag. This is not an everyday thing, but I do actually do a lot of electrical on boats, rewire a lot of boats, do a lot of repair. This is a really handy little bag that I use for small projects, and then if it's a major rewire, I'll be bringing, totes and other equipment to actually rewire a boat. But for general diagnostic and small stuff, I've got pretty much every tool I need here to be able to do simple repairs and simple diagnostics. And so you've seen that I've got, of course, things like markers and test leads. I've got my strippers and crimpers. I've got scissors for cutting heat shrink. I've got more screwdrivers, of course, because electrical, there's screws everywhere for electrical. An extra can of butane just in case I run out for heat shrinking stuff. A crescent wrench. I've got a couple wrenches. I've got markers and paint pens for marking stuff. This is a golf cart battery carrying strap to move the golf cart batteries because they don't come with handles. And the only thing missing out of that side is my amp clamp, which I think is on a customer boat right now. This is kind of my main side. This is my heat gun, my Snap-on heat gun. It's butane. The multimeter I use primarily is a Fluke 87V. I've had this since college. It's amazing, and it does pretty much everything I need it to do. I've got a variety of crimpers depending on the type of connectors I'm doing. So these are long-handled crimpers meant for nylon connectors. I've got my flush cutters for zip ties. I've got Gardner Bender wire strippers and crimpers, and those are probably my favorite. This is just a regular pair of dikes for cutting wire. And then, of course, a much larger pair of wire cutters that can really slice through even 2/0 and 4/0 cable. And finally, a pigtail of 15 to 30 amp in case I need power on a boat that's dead. When I have certain jobs that, I know are going to require fluids, I tend to bring a small cardboard box of, kind of all the stuff I'm going to need. So penetrating oil, brake clean, Sil-Glide, silicone lubricant for like O-rings. I always bring thread tape and my thread sealant, depending on what I'm tearing apart that day. And then, of course, anti-seize for putting certain things together is really handy. This stuff is all set up in its box, and I have extras of it so I can just grab it and go. The same goes for like oil changes and engine services. I bring one of these small buckets, and it will have my paper towels, brake clean, things like my filter wrenches, Sil-Glide for, the filter O-rings, and of course some diapers for cleaning up my mess. And I can just grab these and head out, and they're all packed ready to go. And so I don't have to like dig around the shop looking for this stuff. It's all very modular, and I can just take it when I need it.
Well, that's the gist of what I carry every day. Now, of course, there's things that are kind of permanently on the service truck, or if I need any specific specialty tools like torque wrenches or special spanners or adapters or compression kits, I can always bring that. What I do is I look at my calendar for the next day, and I have everything set up either the night before, or I'll put it in the vehicle that morning and head out. That way things aren't in the vehicle. The truck stays here at the shop, so it's relatively secure. But since I live at the marina, I don't want my car full of tools overnight. I have had my tools stolen. So the shop is set up in such a way that I can easily grab what I need for the next day and get all set up and ready to go. So that way I show up prepared and I'm able to do the job. Everything in that, setup that I just showed you, I pretty much can tear an entire engine apart with that. And so I find that I don't really need a lot of extras unless I'm doing like a major project or something. So even if you're, a regular cruiser and, you're looking for a good set of tools that can do just about everything, that's a pretty good starting point. It doesn't need to be brand name, but I would recommend having at least decent quality tools so you're not stripping out bolts. For those of you who are curious about the rest of the tools, I will absolutely do another video. Maybe we'll do a toolbox tour or something like that. But for the mobile game, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next video.